Gurudev, Pranam. A fellow devotee, Shri Biswbandhu Ray, has sent us a question. He has requested you to elaborate on Advaitavad Vedanta, which is a Vedic principle of identifying the self with the divine, otherwise known as monism. Please.
This is the zenith point of spiritual realization. It is not just realization, but it is also considered to be a certain technique, certain effective process, and basically it means your experience of identification with the cosmic consciousness. Unit consciousness with what we stay. We live here in this world with some unique feeling. I mean to say individual feeling. This individual feeling should be melted into the cosmic consciousness. Then the realization of the Supreme becomes complete. As a river, we know, rolls down from the mountain and passes through different phases and finally merges into ocean. Similarly, an individual finally has to reach the state of self-identification with the divine. Then comes the completeness, about which Lord Shankara, who is the upholder of this principle, particularly Advaitavad. This is called Advaitavad Monism, oneness, complete realization of spiritual oneness. He says, Jajantu Devata, Badantu Shastrani, Jajantu Devata, Kurbantu Karmani, Atma Oikka Binapi, Muktir Nasiddhati, Brahma Shatantaryopi. This is a very, very long time. Brahma Shatantar means millions and millions, maybe billions or trillions of years. So it is just for emphasizing. He said that people speak of scriptures. They discuss philosophy, they make speeches on philosophy. People also listen that and worship gods and goddesses, various gods and goddesses, and then practice selfless work, karma yoga. But according to Shankara, these all practices may purify you, your soul, may purify your soul, may prepare it for realization, but it will not bring that acme of realization unless and until you have identification with the divine. Now this is such a great thing in Hindu culture, in Hindu background, philosophical background, that world look upon it with awe, because sometimes it is far beyond their intellectual perception, that how a man can be God, because in other religions we find that the God is supreme power, the Lord paramount, and human beings are only meant to praise Him, worship Him, and implore Him for help. Nothing more. Few dogmas and few maxims, nothing more. But Hindu men of enlightenment, they say that you have to be one with God at any rate. I recall up in the mountain when I was meditating, hordes of people would come to meet me, a lot of foreigners would come to meet me, tourists. A group of German scholars came, They were very scholarly people, very intellectual type of people, and they were arguing with me that we cannot perceive this thing in our mind, that how a human being will be God. Then I said, if you don't believe that an individual will ultimately be one with God, because an individual is just a ray of the sun, is like a ray of the sun, or the cosmic, the totality is a part of the totality, and the totality is existing in him in the seed form, in the potential form. Like if you see a seed and you think that if somebody has not known that how big is the tree, and the seed is brought before him and said that it is a big tree, then it will be incredible. Virtually, the seed contains the power to manifest a large tree. Similarly, individual is just a seed in which the potentiality in infinitesimal amount existing. So, every individual in the course of time will be one with God. And that is the complete realization, God realization. Now, I even said them that suppose a drop of milk is not so useful. It's not so useful, practically speaking. You neither cannot make sweets out of it, nor can make curd out of it, nor anything. Any milk preparation, dairy preparation is not possible from a drop of milk. But when the drop is mixed with a bucket full of milk, then from the bucket full of milk you make sweets, or you make curd, or you make any sort of thing, condensed milk, or whatever sweet you make, that same drop is there. Exactly in the same way, the more an individual is able to expand himself, widen his consciousness, and come nearer to the cosmic consciousness, and ultimately become parallel with it, his life is fruitful. This is what our established perception, Hindu established perception. So, this is Advaitavad. Advaita. Dvaita means duality. You begin from duality and end in non-duality. Non-duality means monism. Advaitavad. That is not so easy. It needs a lot of knowledge, a lot of discrimination, a lot of philosophical understanding, particularly spiritual concentration, deep concentration. And it has to be practiced thoroughly. A lot of people make renunciation. They completely give up in order to reach to this state, because there cannot be any bigger state of human consciousness than this, and there cannot be any greater happiness also, joy, knowledge. The essence of all knowledge, secular or spiritual, is this: your identification with the divine, individual identification with the divine. There is a story, I think I would love to mention it here, that there was a river near a thickly populated village, and beyond the river was a forest, and at the end of the forest, by the side of the river, there was a hermit, lived in his hermitage, and he would practice this monism, Advaita. And one day, the villagers found that a tiger caught hold of him, his neck, and was dragging him away. But while he was being dragged by the tiger, he was shouting, "Thou art that, you are Brahman. No tiger, you are Brahman, you are forgotten. You are Brahman. I am Brahman. I am nobody, but I am Brahman." He was shouting, "Soham, Soham." So this is a kind of dedication to the principle that, so monism is just a story, or it might be true, because I heard of one great yogi, Mahatma Swami, called Swami Satchidananda. It is a happening of Calcutta. He was seated in the railway station. He was seated. Suddenly, a Muslim fellow, at the time there was a riot going on, Hindu Muslims, it is a time of India's division. So a Muslim came and stabbed him. And as he was stabbed, he looked at the Muslim and said that, "Brother, you are the same. As I am, you are the same," he said. Tattamashi. And then left his ghost, died. So Shankara says, as I have already mentioned, that you might practice a lot of worshipping, studying, stuti, eulogies of God, or practice other practices, yoga and others, but unless and until you feel in your heart your identity with the divine, you do not really become free from ignorance. This is the idea. Now, I would love to come to the point, major point, Vedantic point, how Vedanta explains it. Vedanta speaks of 4 Mahavakya. This is called Mahavakya, 4 mantras, great mantras. They are called Mahavakya because they are great mantras, like Mahamrityunjaya mantra. Mrityunjaya is the conqueror of death, Shiva. So Mahamrityunjaya mantra, because Shiva is the Mahamrityunjaya and his mantra. So these are also called 4 great words of the Vedanta. I think they are only existing in this scripture, no other scriptures of the world, nowhere. I should mention, of course, a little bit of other also in comparison, but these 4 words are 4 mantras. The first one is Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi. I am the Supreme Consciousness. I am the Brahma. Now, as we know that out of 9 billion people in the world, you are the most important person to yourself. I am the most important person to myself. So, every thought, every action, every speech, whatever an individual begins, it begins with I. It begins with first person. First person is the most important person. First person. So, this sadhana, this spiritual practice of monism, begins with individual. How? I am that. It starts from I. Without I, nothing can be done. Nothing exists in the world. Nothing exists without I. So, this little I that I have, I am that. That is the supreme I, the great universal I, universal ego. So, I am that. It begins from that. So, you are the first person, you are trying to identify yourself with the divine, I am that. But what about second person? You. You, who are you? If I am that, then who are you? Then the second mantra has to be cultivated. That is called Tat Tamashi. Tat means that, Tam means you, Ashi means you are. You are the same. Thou art the same, the supreme. It's not that I am Brahman, but thou art also Brahman. So thou art that. Then comes that, now it is clear, I am the supreme, you are the supreme, we are one. But then what about this? Cat, dog, third person. There are many third person, so many people, so many materials, so many animals, so many birds around us. What about them? There will be confusion. So the third mantra is I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. These all souls are also Brahma. There can't be anything in this world without consciousness. So all these beings are also having consciousness. Even the integrity of the material world is also maintained by the same consciousness, vital power. So that is also Brahman. So is a third person, for the world, I am Atma Brahma. So Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, I am Atma Brahma. These 3 persons are all covered. When one has covered this fully, having long practices in his consciousness all day and night, then finally he comes to Soham. So Aham. It is like, first, that was object. Now it has upside down, it has become upside down, turned. That is me. Because that is the sign of perfection. Because first you did not know him, but you know yourself. But because of the secondary knowledge received from the wise people, received from the scripture, authentic scripture, you said, I know what I am, but I do not know fully myself. I am that. Like the river says, I am the ocean. But when it has gone into the ocean, the river has gone into the ocean, he says that ocean is me. Actually, you have reached there and you have known him. And then now, as an individual, when you live in this world, then you say Soham. Because this state of realization is not always. When you particularly meditate or practice the sadhana, you feel the identity. But when you have to deal with the world, you have your separation. You have your separation, because without having this feeling of separation, you cannot work, You cannot work. So, the final realization is Soham. Soham. Then the Advaita sadhana becomes complete. Gita also says that Ekattena prithakattena bahudha vishwatamukam. There are so many kinds of worshipping, so many kinds of adoration, spiritual adoration. And one important is identity with the divine. Identity with the divine. So this divine identity is called Advaitavad. First mantra is 4 mantras, 4 Mahabhakas have to be cultivated simultaneously and thoroughly. So all day and night it has to be remembered that I am that, thou art that, this world is that, and finally everything vanishes, that is myself. So there is no difference between me and the divine. I have known the Supreme Consciousness and I feel that I am always with this. I think about Jesus Christ, many people know that he was in India and learnt Vedanta, Buddhism, Nathism, so many. That's why he said in the Bible, New Testament, it's not the Old Testament, you will find in the New Testament, I and my Father are one. He said it openly. And that created a lot of problem for him. Because if somebody says, I am God, I am the Supreme, naturally those who do not like him, they will challenge. So the challenge came from the chief priest, that if you are God, then get down from the cross. Let me see that you come down from the cross. So this is a thing we must remember, that this is actually an esoteric practice. It is an esoteric practice. It's not to be announced or pronounced in the public. You feel your identity with the divine, but as an individual, you cannot say that I am God. Oh, look, I am God. If I go to the temple of Pashupati and say that, oh, what a stone image you are going to worship every day. You are worshipping. Come on, I am God. Worship me. Then people won't worship me, but they will clench their fist and will not leave any teeth in my mouth, any tooth in my mouth. That you are God. Okay, see what kind of God you are. That mistake is there in the Bible, that he should not be speaking it openly, that I and my Father are one. That might create a sort of jealousy, malignant feeling in the people, that if you are God, what are we? What are we? You should also say that you are God, but you are not saying that. That means it's a partial knowledge of the Vedas that you have learned. It is a partial knowledge. But the complete knowledge is here, that I am that, thou art that, this world is that, and basically we all are one, Soham. All Aham is basically So. That is the cosmic consciousness. This is Advaita Vedanta.
Thank you, Gurudev. It was enlightening. Could you further elaborate on the subtle differences or the apparent difference between Advaitavad and Dvaitavad?
Point is this, that the explanation that I have made now is a very high state of spiritual practice. Average human mind cannot perceive this so easily. They may listen it, intellectually they might have some sort of perception, but to practice it needs a lot of purification, a lot of self-purification, a lot of confidence and detachment. Detachment from the world. Most people are attached to the world. Most people are attached to the world. So when such a state of attachment with the world, at such a state of attachment to the world, you cannot suddenly jump up to the state of monism. So you have to pass through the phases of dualism, this worship. Over the world people do that. Every community does that. Every community, every religious community, and there are many, many communities we don't know their names even. There are many ethnic groups, there are so many kinds of communities, they worship God because God instinct is existing in every individual. Somebody may by force say that I don't believe in God, I don't believe in, if you do not believe in God, then what do you believe in? The point is here. If you do not believe in God, then what is your explanation about this whole systematic cosmic process, cosmology going on? So how do you explain it? If there is no intelligence, if there is no vast intellectual conscious force is working behind it, intelligent force, which you call Mahat, the intelligence of God, consciousness of God. You have intelligence and you organize things by your intelligence. So cosmic consciousness, the cosmic mind also has some intelligence. That way it is being organized. Otherwise we see that no material moves by itself. So duality is needed. What is duality? Duality is basically, there are many ways, like people worship, people chant mantras, names of God, they read books, they read the eulogies of God, praises of God, so on and so forth. All literatures, even Vedas are full of these praises. Fire God, this God. So extraterrestrial, celestial entities all considered to be gods. God means Deva in Sanskrit. Deva, Devi. Deep means shining. Anything which is important to him, to us, important for our existence is our God. Like sun is important, air is important, water is important. Even unseen gods are there, so many. And finally, we take God as person. In monism, you don't have to take him as a person. It's a consciousness, universal, all-permeating entity. But here, in duality, it would be easier for an adorer if he takes God as a person. And why to take him as a person? Because to create a relationship. I have a relationship with you. You are as a friend, as a disciple, and I am your teacher, your guru, or any a respectable person from you and to you. Similarly, if you can create a personal relationship with the divine, then it becomes easier for you to develop devotion. And devotion is such a faculty in human being which makes heart softer, shakta, pleasing, and susceptible to knowledge. So duality is that, the beginning of your worship. Like the river moves loving the world. The river moves loving the world. It passes through villages, beautiful villages, through dales, to craggy mountains, and then it passes to forests, beautiful forests, all various kind of terrestrial topography. It passes through and finally becomes transcendent, going to ocean. No terrestrial topography, but is emerging into that. Exactly in the same way, a person has to create relationship with God. Sometimes God is the mother, tameva mata cha pita tameva, and sometimes he is a father, sometimes his friend, sometimes his brother, sometimes his shakha, companion. This way, like we see Yashoda created her relationship with God as son. Arjun created his relationship with God as friend. Radha created her relationship as a paramar, as a lover. Hanuman created his relationship as a Lord, Some people asked him that how do you look upon Rama? The Hanuman says that when I work, I feel that he is the Lord and I am the servant because I am doing his work. And when I meditate, I feel that I am a part of him. He is complete and I am a part of him. He is the supreme sun and I am a ray. I am just a ray, a beam from him. And when I am in samadhi, when I get absorbed in my meditation, deep absorbance, at that time I feel that myself and Ram are one. So it's Advaita. So Advaita slowly leads you to Advaita. But it has a few other phases, particularly one phase which is very famous called Vishishta Advaita, specified monism. You can say specified dualism, but since the word is Advaita, so I say specified monism. How does it happen? Like, firstly, you think that Lord is my father, a Lord is my Lord, a Lord is my mother, Lord is my son, Lord, a relationship. And some also create relationship that Lord is tranquil and I am tranquil. Shanta is Shanta, Vatsalya. There are so many kinds of relationships, particularly in the Vaishnava religion also. We find the relationship is very nicely created. A lot of sects, in Indian sects, they have this duality. Ramanujam is one who has preached duality. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is another famous dualist who loved God as his paramar, like Radha Bhav. He thought himself to be Radha and Krishna his lover, and that way he would get absorbed, so much so that sometimes he would lose his consciousness completely, outward consciousness. So this duality practice, there are many, many great spiritual masters who practice, even Christ is basically a dualist practice, Love thy God with all thy heart, with all thy mind, with all thy spirit, and love thy neighbor as thyself. So it shows duality. But when he said that I am one with God, that shows an impression of monism. Monism. Probably he also practiced a little bit of that, However, so this duality, when you practice individual relationship, slowly your mind becomes wider and wider, and you feel that whole universe is the body of the Supreme Consciousness. Whole universe. And you are observing that, you are a part of the universe. And the universe is God, and you are a part of it. This is called Vishishta Advaitavad. Your identity with the universal God in the form of the visual universe. Like you have a body, God has the body, universe. You have a mind, he has the mind. His mind is called Hiranyagarbha. And his big form, this visible universe, is his body, which is called Virat. So his body is called Virat, his mind is called Hiranyagarbha, and his consciousness is called Param Brahma. As you have a body, you have a mind, you have consciousness, your soul, your spirit. He has, as an universal being, he has his body, he has his mind, and he has his consciousness. This kind of meditation is called Vishishta Advaita. And in the course of time, you come to realization that the universe is not existing. I am not existing. You are not existing. Nothing is existing. Eka Brahma Ditya Nasti. Only one consciousness is existing all through, and everything is melted, gone, vanished. Because creation is in Maya, and Maya is vanished, and everything is vanished. When the camera is closed, the slides are gone. When the projector is closed, only screen, nothing remains. So when this complete identity in monism takes place, then neither time nor space. You have to respect time and space in order to go beyond it. Because it is only pure consciousness which is beyond time and space. Everything is related with time and space. So it is called Swavikalpa. Samadhi with awareness of time and nirvikalpa, where the awareness of time is lost. Only there is the awareness of consciousness, one entity. Eka Brahma Ditya Nasti. One is existing and not two. So Shankara says that Slokardhena Prabhakshami Jasastra Kotivi Brahma Sattam Jagat Mitha Jiva Brahmibanapara. I will present in half a verse what is spoken by millions of scriptures. That is, the cosmic consciousness, Brahma, is truth, and rest is Mitha, means they all vanish. And Jiva Brahmibanapara, every living being that we find around us, basically Brahma. You never forget it. This is the highest sadhana. It is like when we dream and we stay in a dream world, we feel that the dreams are all reality. But the moment we wake up, the dreams vanish. Exactly in the same way, when you come to Turiya state, this state of mind, this state of consciousness, where no mind, no intelligence, no senses, and consequently no world, then in that state the world is a dream. The world vanishes in a dream. But when you are in the world, you cannot just think that it is dream and I should not be responsible. I should not discharge my responsibility because why should I do? That is wrong. Because your sense of responsibility is within the same dream and you have to play your role the best without attachment so that your soul is purified and ultimately becomes capable of realizing this identity with the divine. So this is the difference.